Tim Matheson. That's the nothing personal word of the day. It is a Samson sit down. And I'm going to not schwitz, and I'm going to take this very slowly and carefully because I spent one day,
wow,
Tim, reading Damn Glad to Meet You. I want to get it right in there to make sure everyone sees it. This is your memoir, and you are out doing publicity for it, which you should.
And the book drops tomorrow.
The book drops. It will be dropped.
It will be.
So this is recorded, Tim. So when people see this,
I see.
It will already be available.
It's available.
So that's how we're going to say it.
The book is available.
Right now. You may go buy it.
At your bookstore, which you should go and buy it at your bookstore because it keeps them in business. Keeps them.
Are you that guy?
Yeah, because I think, you know what? I like bookstores. I learned so much about acting and directing in bookstores. That's why I love bookstores.
Damn glad to meet you. First of all, let me just say that the way we met, as my audience knows, because you've been on the show, is through baseball. You are a big baseball fan.
Yes.
Baseball is pervasive in here. You have a lot of references to the Dodgers, who are a team that you love, including a Koufax reference, which some people may not get reading your book, but they should.
Yeah.
But there's also a Miami Marlins reference.
Absolutely.
Which was very nice of you, however wrong it was.
You know what? Here's what happens.
Who's your fact checker?
Here's what happens is that I'll tell a story to the co-writer, the ghost writer, and he'll transport it into text. And I said the president of the Marlins, and he'll say, oh, it was the manager of the Marlins. So and what happens is when you read it and proofread it, I'll miss it, and I missed it. So I'm an idiot. Anyway,
you're not an idiot. I'm just sad because we missed an amazing opportunity for an amazing story. And the way that this happened, so I want to bring the audience into how it works with Tim and I texted him after reading the book. He had never told me that this was in the book, might I add, which is fine. You don't owe me a thing. There were a lot of surprises. So I read it and I text, hey, who is the manager you're referring to? And then he writes back like almost immediately, by the way, your read receipts are on, which you should turn off of your cell phone because everyone knows when you read their text and you don't respond.
Oh, dear.
So you may want to change that. But in any case, he's like, oh, I meant the president. I'm like, but it's a printed book. So, of course, he said, we'll change it in the paperback.
And the audio. We'll get it. You know what? I every show I do from now on, I'll say, President David said this to me. So there you go.
It was not the most important part of the book.
It was actually one of the funnier parts of the book, too.
It actually is good.
Yeah.
I want to go back, though. I want to talk about doing a memoir because I don't view you, and I think your audience doesn't view you. Contrary to you saying that you've taken on new roles where you're looked at as now the sophisticated elder doctor, which is funny because Virgin River, which the new season's coming out.
Yes.
And it has become a huge hit from day one. A nugget that I learned in your book is that it got renewed before it had ever been released.
Oh my God! It was the whole new world of streaming and media itself is transforming, as you're aware, and a leader in. Is that it just is so different than broadcast television and radio, you know, and so they don't tell you anything about the show. They don't want you to know too much about the show. They don't want anybody to know. And I think that because they had to negotiate with the unions, they didn't want to pay residuals and things like that. And so we did not know until the end of the third year, which was during COVID, the last day of the shoot. Our show is number one from the first. It was the first season, had just been dropped. It was the number one show in all of North America and all over the world. I mean, just on Netflix. Virgin River. And it was like bang. And we just went, really? Who knew? I mean, we just thought, gee, we're lucky to be doing season 3.
There's so many little anecdotes. Just seeing Annette O'Toole in the airport struck me that you're both like scheduled to fly to Vancouver where you're filming. Hey, good to see you.
Yes. I mean, it's and that's the way I found out she was in the show. I had no idea. I thought maybe everybody goes to Vancouver to shoot. So it could have been any number of shows she was working on. And then she goes, no, I'm playing your wife.
I want to go back to the decision to write this because there's a lot of personal things contained in here that are now going to be out in public. Mm-hmm. People you've had sex with, mm-hmm. people whose names will be recognized. Mm-hmm. So there's a bit of that, but not the real point of your memoir is that because it's spicy and nice, and I won't spoil it because I want people to buy the book, which is available.
Yes,
right now
at your bookstore and online too.
Go to your bookstore. We want to keep bookstores going.
We love them.
But I want to know the decision. It's a decision you have to make personally to do this. It is a huge time commitment. So I want to understand what clicked in your mind to do this. Have you always wanted to do a memoir? Did you feel you were old enough, had the gravitas? What made you do this?
The reality was, it was started. There was a book I read when I was. I'm a student of film, and as you know, and directors, and so I read anything and everything I can about movies. And a woman named Algene Harmitz wrote a book called The Making of the Wizard of Oz, and she went through all the stacks of and files at MGM through every department and pulled out all the notes and wrote about makeup and hair and special effects and wardrobe and the shoot. And there were 3 directors on it, and the cast, and everything about the Wizard of Oz that she got from the files of MGM, she put in a book, and it was fascinating because I love that movie, and this was just step by step exactly how the movie was made. So I wanted to do. I was fortunate enough to be in Animal House, and where John Landis, Ivan Reitman, Doug Kenny, and Harold Ramis were all part of, and they changed the face of comedy in America, in American film. And I just, as the years went by, after about 5 or 7 years, I realized I was there, and I want to write about the making of this movie and how these people changed comedy in America. And I started to do that, and then the publisher loved that, and they said, "That's great. Well, but maybe broaden it out."
Your original was just going to be a book about Animal House?
Yeah. I was going to do the making of Animal House. Really, that was, and it could have been the same title, but that's what I wanted to do, because the alchemy between all those people, which spawned, John Hughes, because he was a Lampoon writer that they brought on, and he wrote Vacation. And Harold Ramis began directing, and Doug Kenny did Caddyshack, and John Landis and Ivan Reitman didn't go to the premiere of Animal House because he wanted to be a director, and so he went off and had Meatballs written, and he started shooting that day. He was on the set waiting for Bill Murray to see if Bill Murray was going to show up or not.
He still does that to this day. People don't know.
They don't know
whether he actually said yes to be in the movie.
It's
and
true.
You're supposed to go there and be staged and ready to go. Just in case he shows.
Maybe.
And sometimes he does.
Yes.
And then when he does, there can be magic or there can be not magic. It's sort of how it goes. I don't think you should ever do that.
No.
What if you had not come today?
I would
don't be that guy. You've never been that guy.
I'd never do that to you.
So that's quite a change, actually, from how Animal House was made. You said you can draw a bridge to what this is. This is far more personal to me. That goes way into your family life, your childhood, talking about your parents and the difficulties, the traumas, your marriages, your failed marriages. I mean,
oh my God.
It's you did not, this is not the making of one of your movies.
No.
This is the making of you.
Yes, and it's where it's where I fell in love with movies, because I realized that I started hiding out in the movies when my parents got divorced, and I would just go spend hours. I spent all day, all weekend going to the movies. And then back in those days, Saturdays was the matinee day. It was the kids' matinee, so they got all the serials, and there was some kid feature, and then the adult features would be they'd show them after that, and then I could stay for that too, and I'd watch. You could watch them twice if you wanted to, and I just felt safe in the movie. So that was attractive to me, And then I'd seen a film. I saw Charles Laughton do this Witness for the Prosecution, a Billy Wilder movie, and I was so knocked out by that performance. It was like, oh my God, I just wanted to know, how did he do that? It was like it's like watching a great pitcher or a baseball player.
You know it when you see it.
Yes,
but it's hard to explain.
Yeah, and just it's a miracle. How do they do that? How does Ohtani do that? So that was what drew me, and that's sort of why I started where I did, and tried to follow that, what led me into the business.
Did you need permission from anyone?
No.
In your family? Did
No.
you tell your children in advance? Now, you don't talk about them much, but did you tell them you were doing this?
Yes, I did, and I vetted it with them. I basically I never allowed pictures of my kids when they were growing up, and so I didn't capitalize on the family, and I didn't want pictures of them out there and them to be bothered or for safety too. And so I didn't really want to do too much of them in here. And I did I had sort of the end of my second marriage, and that was a big part of the beginning of my, my third relationship. So that I vetted with them and made sure they were okay with it. And the picture I put in here, I made sure they were okay with it.
When you were going through, because you had to organize this in a certain way, called "Damn Glad to Meet You." I'm going to keep showing it all show.
Thank you.
I literally love this book. This was a one sitting. I review movies every day on Nothing Personal, and I talk about how many times do I go to my cell phone during a movie, and that's how I'll rank it. This was a 10 cell phone movie where I was looking at my phone 10 times, and the best movie is a 0 cell phone movie.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great.
I did this entire thing in 2 sittings.
Wow.
I got up because I got distracted to do something, but the best part about it is I wanted to know what was next in your linear life. Like, how did it happen? Who did you interact with? And I want to go a little bit back to the beginning and talk about a name that I think only, and this is scary to say, about 18% of my audience really understands her significance, and that's Lucille Ball.
Oh.
And one of the things that we have done, the internet will keep her alive and her legacy alive and the show alive, but time passes. Lucille Ball was one of the most powerful women in the industry, maybe up there. People talk about Oprah and talk about Martha Stewart. Lucille Ball was doing it before any of them.
Yep.
That's sort of always been my view of it, but there wasn't enough PR because there wasn't today's PR. You're giving her really good PR in this book.
Oh, she was in addition, she was the biggest star on TV. She was on TV Guide cover more than anybody, 25 times or something. And she was also the first female executive to run a studio. She owned the studio. She owned Desilu Productions.
What year was this?
This was 61.
Think about that, everybody.
Yeah.
We're in the early 60s.
60s. And
this is not Ozzie and Harriet. This is a woman who's running the studio.
And they had invented sitcoms. Desi had been invented because they did I Love Lucy. And Desi wanted a way so that Lucy could be shown off to her best in front of an audience and do it quickly, and was shoot with 3 cameras in front of an audience. And that was never been done before. And it captured her performance live. And then they built their studio empire with that. They owned 3 different sets of stages all around LA. And they had The Untouchables, they had Star Trek, they owned all these shows as well. And then when she and Desi got divorced, she bought him out and she ran the studio. And it was like, okay.
What was it like when you first saw her? Because you were not her age.
No, she was very intimidating. I mean, and she did not look anything like the Lucy on TV. Her hair was not that red. That's a wig. And she also wore like false eyebrows, that with lace and when she was made up, when you were close to her, it was like getting close to Santa Claus at the store the first time.
You've got hair in your nose, Santa.
My God, that's not a real beard. I mean, Jesus. But she was a dynamo, and she took an interest in me. She liked my work, and I think the only way that the lesson she wanted me, now that I look back at it, she wanted to toughen me up. She thought I was too sensitive because I was very shy, and I was a kid. And so I'm 17 when I'm auditioning for this, and I'm talking about like this, and when I got the part, and after when we'd get on the set, she'd go, Tell him to talk louder. I can't hear him. She'd say that to the director. She would never just direct me to speak up, But she was great, and only on the set she was all business, no chit chat, nothing to distract from her her process.
Did she stay in character during filming, the way like a Daniel Day-Lewis, where you can't talk to him other than in that character?
No.
Like I can imagine her, because she's trying to be a tough business person in an era where even today in 2024, it's hard to describe because some women in charge are called bitches.
Oh yeah.
And if men do it, they're fine. And I was thinking in the 60s, what must that have been like?
She was tough. I mean, I'll never forget the first time we were doing a scene where 10 kids making breakfast. There's a prop guy under the counter with a button popping up toast that's on a line so that Lucy can catch it out of the air, juice being poured, eggs being, it was breakfast, and 10 kids. And it was not going well because the kids were goofing around. They were miming the props. They were just pretending to do this and that. And Lucy just stopped and said, "Always rehearse with your props." And it was like, okay. I mean, but she was a taskmaster and demanded that you perform at the top level whenever you were on the set. Any other time, fine, you go ahead. And then she'd take me and invite me to her dressing room, and I could talk to her, and she would counsel me. And
Did you know you were learning from
she knew.
You learned.
She knew.
So you think that she was like a scouting talent where she had an idea that you would turn into the actor, director, producer, businessman you've turned into?
Interesting. No, I think there was something about me she liked.
So she didn't treat everybody this way?
No. I was the only one who got to sit in and talk with her, and she also invited me to do an episode of The Lucy Show. Here's Lucy, which was a series she did with her daughter, I think 2 years after Yours, Mine, and Ours. And one of the things that was so great about Lucy and all those people who came up through vaudeville, which was, live theater, they did like 3 to 5 shows a day. And it was tough. I mean, they were really working hard. And that was one of the things I wanted to impart in this book was this is going to be lost information if I don't put it down here. This is how hard these people worked, and this is how they learned their craft. And this is the lesson we can learn from them to help us be better today in whatever line of work we do, because it was dedication to a process. And so anyway, so
you were 21 for Here's Lucy? So that was 4 years. So you're a kid.
I'm still a kid. I'm still nervous.
I mean, you could have been a big leaguer at 21. There are big leaguers that young. We forget how young they are.
Oh yeah,
when they're performing at that level.
Right.
But you're in the spotlight from a young age.
And she still was yelling at me to speak up. And Gail Gordon, who was one of the co-stars of the show, he's a great comic actor. He took me aside and said, "Tim, don't worry. But she yelled at Richard Burton last week to speak up. Well, Liz and Dick were here, so don't take it to heart." So anyway, so we're doing the show. There's a live audience out there. Lucy and I are backstage with Gail, and what Lucy would do, she would hire her friends, her old colleagues from vaudeville who were falling on hard times or needed a job or something. She'd give them a day here and a day there or something. And this one woman had one line, and we're backstage waiting for her to go out. And then after she went out and came back, then we go out. And there was a department store set or something. And so we're backstage, and there's people on stage talking. There's some acting going on out there, and this woman's waiting for her cue. And Lucy goes, $20, she blows her line.
To anybody?
Just to Gail and me.
So she put 40 on the line. That's not a small amount of money back then.
No, and this woman looks over at her, and I thought, oh, that's horrible. What a terrible thing to do. And this woman looks over at Lucy and kind of smiles. And looks away, and then the light goes off, and there's her cue. She walks out on stage, slams the door behind her. You hear there's some chatter, some other people dialogue. This woman hits her line, gets her laugh, and then there's a laugh, and then there's some more dialogue, and then she turns and walks back out through the door, comes backstage,
palm open,
walks over, palm up, goes to Lucy. And what I got out of that was, it's a full contact sport. It's, and I think the analogy I drew was something you had said, although I quoted it was the manager.
Botched it.
It was David Samson who said that. Was when we were in the locker room, and you introduced me to a left-handed pitcher you just brought up to the big leagues, and I said, "Congratulations, you must, way to go, man! You're in the bigs." And you didn't want it to go to his head, I assume, and you probably had a bunch of other reasons. You just said, "Hey, if you're a lefty, if you're a left-handed pitcher and you got a pulse, you're in the bigs." And it was like, oh my God, it was such a revelation to me. And you said it right in front of the kid, and he just laughed. And it was like, that's how athletes treat each other, because it's a full contact sport. You don't want him thinking about, oh my God, I'm in the bigs and how hot am I, when there's 35,000 and 55,000 people out there watching him.
And I want him to throw strikes, and I want him to get outs. I don't want him thinking, oh God, and being a prisoner of the moment and then not being able to perform. It's not, and we've talked about this, athletes are not unlike actors.
Yeah.
They have a skill. You have a skill, and you're doing it in a way. The difference is we always try to get measurable results in the business world.
Yeah.
It's not like sports where there's a win and a loss at the end of the day, because you're looking at ratings, you're looking at revenue. When you're running National Lampoon, you're running a business, but there are ways that you can sort of make it last longer. The season doesn't have to end on the last day. You can borrow more money or find more financing. But the mentality to be a professional athlete and the mentality to be what you are, a professional actor, it's not dissimilar in terms of the discipline, but also what I want to talk about, the number of people you've come across who don't make it, and way more than those who do. The number of people who have the career you've had.
But it's in any business. It's 10, 80, 10. You know, the top 10 and the bottom 10, and then there's somewhere in between. But you were Lucy to that guy. You were what Lucy was to me. You were to that kid. I don't know if that kid's still in the bigs or he made it in the bigs or what. But
he's one of my draft picks. Probably not.
But you were his mentor. You know, and you were helping him. And that was the lesson that I learned from her. You know, is you got to toughen up.
And so learning different lessons from different people, make sure you get the book, Damn Glad to Meet You. If this sounds like a commercial for Tim, it is, and I'll tell you why. It is purposefully, because there's a lot of people competing for people's time. Yeah, I ask for 50 minutes every day of people's time for nothing personal. But I'm asking people to read this book now, and they have to know that I don't suggest books often or movies. Even though I review one every day, I don't say to the audience, you must watch this. I'll be honest and say, I watched it for you. You can pass on it. The reason why I'm telling people they have to buy and read this book is I'm trying to think of who else has a line from Lucille Ball and Henry Fonda to John Belushi, which is an interesting through line, to Chris Farley, who have a line together, but you've got a line to both, and who's been able to continue the career where now you are basically running a show and you end up directing episodes of shows. You were in the business. I just don't know many people with your resume. So I didn't know who you used after Lucille Ball. You talking to here are some directors you followed and paid attention to who gave you great notes on how to direct. Can I spoil one more nugget? Just one quick nugget.
Head to head, yeah.
Small one. As an actor, what you like directors to do, you didn't like 10 notes on a line. You like 2, and you followed that as a director yourself.
Right.
What I thought about is when players become managers, and they manage the way they wanted to be managed when they were players. And I had an issue with that as team president, because I don't want a manager who is thinking as a player. I need a manager to think as a CEO, and it can be a tough adjustment. And I was wondering if you thought about that adjustment when you are a director versus an actor.
Yes.
Because you're in charge.
You're in charge, and you have to protect the screenplay, you have to protect the writer, you have to protect the editor, and you have to protect the studio. And classic example, and it rarely happened. I worked with such good actors that they needed little or no direction, or if it's like you say to this guy can't. You just say,
just give him the ball and leave. Stay out of the way.
Yeah, you just say throw it high inside. He can't hit it. He just he just no way he can hit a low outside curve. He just can't. He'll go for it. So that's all you got to say, and they know that and they get it. And so what I what I was trying to do is just to be of service and to be of help. But so I had an actor who wouldn't do the way the scene was written. It was a case. It was without a.
What does that mean? Wouldn't do it? He wouldn't read his lines.
She wouldn't play it with the emotion that was demanded. It was a show called Without a Trace, and she had to be a suspect. And so we had to think at some point she could have killed him. She could have done it. And so because we talk about her later. It's like, oh my God, it could have been her. Blah blah blah. Blah. So we get there and we're just ready to shoot the scene, and it was not a complicated scene, but she had to yell at this guy, her husband, and you did this and the kind of thing, and they have to have a brouhaha. And she said, no, I think this woman's really in control, and she's just got her emotions in check, and she's really bright and educated, and I'm not gonna yell at him.
Who's the actress?
No,
you won't say?
No,
seriously.
I honestly I don't remember her name. I mean, she wasn't a big star or anything, but
did you sit her down?
No, I said, well, you have to, and I could not convince her to do it. when I got to her, I said, I'll get to her close-up, and I'll just keep working with her in her close-up, because I get it in a close-up, I'll be in the close-up. And I got sort of a little bit of a performance, and then finally I took Tim McDekay aside, who was the actor who was playing opposite her, and I said, Tim, I want you to just tear her head off. I want you to just, say the worst things you can think about her as your ex-wife. Just say it's your fault, the kid's dead. It's just I want you to just tear her up. And I didn't tell her, because she would not do it.
Did she cry?
She was flustered. She was upset. She was pissed.
You got your shot.
I got my shot. Cut, print, and we're over here.
And moving on.
And she just was furious with me. How dare you do that? And I said, I'm sorry, but there was no other choice. And
were you worried if actors didn't like you?
No.
Because some people need to be liked.
Yeah. It was important that they trust me. It was important that the leads of the show trusted me to do what I wanted, and then to do what I wanted them to do. But I liked, we're here today and gone tomorrow. It's like you're on the road, and you're in Detroit, and next you're in Cincinnati. So it's like, okay, did they like me? I don't know.
Does Martin Henderson come to you? He's in Virgin River.
Yeah.
It seems like he's going to be directing, maybe.
Yeah, he directed an episode this
last
past
season.
season. Yeah.
Did he come to you?
Yeah, he came in. He
Do you feel like the veteran sort of guy on set? Like that's where you've gone sort of interestingly. I'm not going to say full circle, because that means it's done, which it's not. But you're at a different part of the circle than you were when you were with Lucille Ball at 17.
Yes.
On set.
And yes, and I counseled him, but you don't want too much information, because person can only absorb so much, and they honestly, before you've directed, you don't know what you don't know. And he was great. I just I gave him the advice that I think Mike Nichols gave to Judd Apatow. When Judd was doing his first movie, he said to Nichols, he met him, and he said, "You got any advice for a first-time director?" And he says, yeah, just once you get the scene exactly like you want, perfect, you got it. The master, but when you're still in the master, get one fast, get one twice as fast, get one, just get one fast.
For the editing room?
Yeah. And he said, and do the same thing in close-ups. Because
so
you'll never know when you get in the room, you'll want a quicker cut, or it'll play better, or you think, but you've probably over-directed the scene, knowing the first time you do so. You've probably over-directed it. Now let them go and let them play, and it'll be fun.
And you do this still?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
No exceptions. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah. I just, I think that, and it's usually what the end of you say, just, this is yours. Do whatever you want to do. Just have fun. Have fun.
Did you do it with that woman actress?
Oh, no.
Who wasn't listening to you?
No, she never spoke to me again.
That was it. So you never...
But, you got to do what you got to do.
Do you have a trail? Because in baseball, there's an unwritten book about which players don't speak to which managers, which GMs don't speak to each other.
Oh, my God.
There's all sorts of politics within 30 teams. I assume that exists in Hollywood. So how big is your book of... Because I'm shocked to hear this, only in that I view you differently as who would not want to talk to you at all times. So we now know one, this unnamed actress who you claim you don't remember, which is horse hockey. Of course you remember.
No.
But that's okay. It's fun. We'll get it out of you. Who else is on that list? That you just were like, I'm not working with you, and they say they're not working with you.
Oh, gosh. Well, I'll tell you, I got out of episodic television directing because I was doing a show. And what happens is, I go up as a director, and I have a meeting with the writer who was a co-executive producer, and she told me what she was intended in the script, and I pitched her my view of here's how I want to do this. I'm like, blah, blah, blah. And she goes, okay, great. And I go up to location, and I scout, and I cast, and I pick wardrobe, and I make all these choices. And then the writer usually comes up 2 days before you start shooting, or the day before you start shooting, or something, or for the production meeting. And she came up and started just getting in my way. I mean, I'd be having a one-on-one talk with you about...
Like physically?
Well, yeah. I mean, I was like, all of a sudden a head would pop in and block my view of the person I'm talking to, because she's talking to them now. And it's like, excuse me, I'm having a conversation here. And it began to get intrusive onto the set. So I'm shooting the first day, I have 150 extras, background artists. It's a fashion show without the fashion person who was supposed to design the show didn't know what she was doing. So now I have to redirect that on the fly, and there's an audience watching, and then it develops into a fight and a big thing. So I start to shoot, and I got to go. I got 4 cameras, and all of a sudden she says, "You got to cut." And I said, "Why?" And she says, "I don't like the belt on that model." And I said, "Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We'll be on the actors talking in the audience at that point. I can cut around it. Don't worry about it. No, I don't like the belt. Cut. And it was like,
wait, someone yelled cut, not you?
yeah, which you don't.
That's not legal.
You don't. Well, it's stupid.
Does anyone listen to that?
Oh yeah, the sound guy just cut. I mean, it's sure when you hear
you don't tell the sound guy to only cut on your voice cut.
Well,
then anyone could yell cut.
Well, nobody would ever do that except some idiot.
Well, somebody did.
This idiot writer. And it went on like that for like 2 days. And it got really, really intrusive and really rude and really and stupid because you just don't. She just didn't know how to behave on a set, and to a director. And finally, I just said, you know what, you're in the category of, you're in my life's too short category, and knowing that that's it, I'll never work on this show again. And then I called the head executive producer and I said, I have to talk to you about this woman, and I want you to tell her to back off. And there's not going to be a problem up here. I'm going to get everything we need, and it's going to be fine. And but I just want you to just tell her to back off, and because she's just not, she's intrusive and she's
counterproductive,
getting in the way of us getting a good show. And I know going to him is not, it'll solve the problem, but I'm not coming back on this show. But that was when I realized that life is too short. I don't need this.
Well, you have a lot of frames of reference, and there are points in your life when you wouldn't have been able to make that decision.
Oh, absolutely.
So that's actually a proud moment for you, I would think.
Yes.
Because it means you've gotten to a place where you've always viewed yourself, and damn glad to meet you, and just in life that you didn't ever think you deserved to be at almost.
No, you're so right. You're so right. I took so much crap from, and episodic directors just get beat up right and left all day long. And here was the other thing. I was an older male, and this is a younger woman, and she just didn't want to hear some old white guy telling her, how it should be done, and it was, there's a lot of dynamics, a lot of things going on. And I said, fine, you know what? You guys make your movies now.
Did it trigger something to you where you said, oh my God, am I getting less relevant again? Am I now going to be the old white guy that people are going to look at and just sort of yes me to death?
No, because I do know what I'm doing. And I earn the respect if I'm on a set directing. I've earned that job, and I can do that job probably as good or better than most everyone else. And I guarantee probably better than a lot of younger people who are coming up now, because we all make mistakes at the beginning. I certainly did, and you shoot yourself into a corner and you don't know how to get out of it. And that's one of the things in the book. This film school boot camp, I put stuff in there that I learned the hard way from getting myself into a jam, and then here's how you get out of the jam. Then I'm going to tell you about this in boot camp, in film school, but I will. And here's some tricks that'll get you out of a jam.
It's something we should mention in this book, that it is a book that reads like a memoir, but then there are passages in chapters, in sections of the book, where you give sort of real life, this is what's going on here. And it's sort of explainers. And you do it in different ways, so it's marked on the page and people can see it. I like that as a way you did that.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like, I was saying to myself, all right, I got to read that part. As a reader, I can't skip this one because he's going to be saying something quite interesting. And it turns out I couldn't skip any of it.
Oh, that's
really
good.
Was bad.
That's good.
I want to talk about parts that you don't take. The world is fascinated with this, about who could have been who, because it's every part. You get a list when we're on films at Meadowlark Media. Whether it's scripted, unscripted, there's always who you want, who you envision in a role. And then people read for it if you're lucky, or you don't do an audition, or you do an audition.
Yes.
The one that struck me that I didn't know about you because you had never mentioned was Ted Stryker.
Oh, I know.
So Ted Stryker is the character in Airplane played by Robert Hayes. That's a big miss.
Oh, God.
Did you not know the Zucker brothers? The Zucker brothers?
I read the script. The script was sent to me, and I was wowed. I thought, this is crazy. This is
Like,
crazy.
you laughed?
Oh God, it's crazy as Animal House. And I asked John Landis, who directed Kentucky Fried Movie, their first movie, and they were going to direct this one. And he said, yeah, they're good. They're okay. I mean, they were good writers. I don't know how they'll be as directors. And so, but I was shooting this Steven Spielberg movie that had no end. It went on. I mean, meaning it was kept shooting and shooting and shooting. So I
1941?
1941.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't, there was no drop dead date. There was no date that it was going to end that would allow me to do that movie. So I wanted to do it, but
that's your story, Tim.
I couldn't do it.
Your story is it was a scheduling conflict.
Yes.
Do you want to stick to that? Because we're not live. You can change that if you want.
It's
but
true.
You passed on Airplane for scheduling.
Well, Stephen wouldn't let me go. And there are stupid moves I made.
Is that the same as moonlighting?
Moonlighting, it was me. I chose not to do it. I had shot a series called Tucker's Witch, and I'd worked for like 6 months, 14 to 16 hours a day, 48 hours on the weekend, and about a guy and his wife who run a detective agency, and it's quick, funny dialogue, right?
Sounds like moonlighting.
And I'm exhausted. And then they say, "Oh, you got to go look at this script. They're offering you this script to do at ABC," and you read it. And I read it, and it said it's about a detective agency of a guy and a girl that are, and it's called moonlighting. And I said, you know what? It's great. I just want 2 weeks off. I got to take a break. I got to go rafting in Utah. Come on. And they said, no, you can't, because we got to start right. Come on, you want to do this?
Crystal photography starts right now. Get on a plane.
I just said
and
no.
You were tired.
I said pass.
And the show ended up being
it's moonlighting. And
Bruce Willis, Sybil Shepherd.
It was It was also, Glenn Caron was a great writer.
Would you have been in Die Hard if you had taken moonlighting?
No. You know why? I mean, I could have done moonlighting, and it would have worked differently than what Bruce Willis. Bruce Willis is a blue collar guy. I am a white collar guy. I'm more of a. That's why I play so many doctors. I think and I don't play cops. I've done a couple. It's okay, but Bruce is a tougher guy.
Aren't you an action hero once you're an action hero?
Yes.
Like, it's hard to envision. This is something funny that happens. I can't picture him in this role not doing it. People say, well, that's because you saw Tom Cruise do the role, so you picture him. But if Tom Cruise weren't Jerry Maguire, somebody else would be Jerry Maguire, and that someone else had done Mission Impossible. It's not a movie that can't be made without Tom Cruise.
No, but it's
a different movie.
I think that there's roles you feel comfortable in, and it's like I was looking at Kurt Russell, a clip from Tombstone the other day, and I looked at him and I just said, well, not only couldn't I grow that mustache, because I know Kurt did, but I can't play that scene like he played it, which is like Clint plays it, like, which is like Liam Neeson plays it, with just flat, just I'm going to kill you eyes, and it's like, it's just not, I could do that. I could act it. I probably wouldn't act it as well, I think, honestly.
It's funny thinking about misses. We all have misses. So the equivalent again in sports, we talk about this, and you and I certainly understand, you miss on players all the time. And then you get in terrible trouble with the press and with the fans or with your owner. How come you didn't draft this guy, or how come you didn't trade for that guy? It's very tough in advance to know. So I'm not giving you any sort of trouble here, because skipping out on roles, you can say it now. Hey, Airplane was the biggest hit of all time. There's a million movies made that no one will ever see. And including, people watch Nothing Personal for Sports Business. There's something in the book, Damn Glad to Meet You, about a business deal between AOL and Time Warner. And I would strongly encourage people to read it. We're not going to talk about it here.
Okay.
But if you think that business does not enter into Hollywood and enter into actors' lives, or it does. So I would encourage everyone to read about that.
Oh, thank you.
I want to switch to something else now. During the filming of Fletch, which people in my audience know is all-timer for me, second all-time favorite behind Let It Ride, which is my first. I don't change it according to who the guest is. So I'm not shoveling anything in your general direction.
What is Let It Ride?
You're joking.
No,
We'll edit that out.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of Richard Dreyfuss?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Terry Garr,
Oh my God.
directed by Joe Pytka. Let It Ride with David Johansen. It's about horse racing. You've never seen Let It Ride?
No. I'm always learning.
You got the horse right here. His name is Guys and Dolls. You say, I say, Let It Ride. In any case, Fletch #2.
Yeah.
And you talk about Fletch, and I want people to read about it because you played a fantastic character in it. But what interested me is your commuting. And it made me think of Alan Alda, who has always said that during MASH for all those years, he commuted between L.A. and New York.
Oh, my God.
His family stayed in Connecticut with his wife Arlene and the kids, and he would fly out to L.A. to shoot MASH each week and then come back.
Wow.
So you were doing Fletch, and you did that commute, but it was for a much shorter period of time.
Yes.
And I wanted to talk about that because people sometimes don't understand the schedule, what it is to, and it's not, you were not on a private plane. You were going, it's
No, I was on a
9/11.
private plane.
You were?
Oh, yeah, I was on a private plane. Still.
4869.
No. Now,
Change the whole thing.
Hold on. It wasn't a big enough plane. It had to stop in Kansas City to get refueled.
Oh.
So it was terrible.
Wait, that's worse than going on a regular plane.
At least you go direct.
It saved you from going to the air. Okay, did it have like propellers? Did you have to pedal?
No, but it was. But the toilet you had to you almost had to go into the cockpit. It was one of those. It was crazy.
So tell me about the thought process of that. Do you need buy-in from your wife? I mean, failed marriages would indicate that buy-in was not always available to you.
I wasn't.
Tell me about how that works.
At that time, I wasn't married. I was in New York and doing a play and getting my ass kicked every night in a play that I didn't enjoy doing. And
why didn't you enjoy it?
The other actor was physically assaulting me in the play.
This is David Stern? Daniel Stern.
Daniel Stern. And what happened was we had a group of props that were legal to throw at each other. Were chosen to throw at each other. They were soft props. And then there were other props that were never to be used to be.
I thought you were kidding in your book about this.
Oh, no.
So this is a real story.
Oh, this is for sure, yeah.
So let's rewind a little bit and tell people that you'll read about this in the book. But I read this, your fights you were having with Daniel Stern, who people know from City Slickers,
yes,
people know
actor.
from Home Alone. I assumed that was play.
That's what he said. But no, what happened is he said, I get carried away. I just get carried away. There's a play about two brothers, Sam Shepard play, True Blood, and it was that's not the name of it, True West, and it was two brothers and they fight and try and kill each other throughout the whole play, and so it was very well staged by Gary Sinise, and it was just Gary Sinise and John Malkovich had played it before us. Then the Quaid brothers had played it, and then Danny and I come in. And it's very carefully staged and blocked, and you protect your other actor. You always protect your other actor.
Third guy through the door.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And
keep going.
And I wasn't getting protected. And I'd say something. I said, Danny, it got a little tough out there. And I come on. I said, and he said, I know. I'm sorry. I got carried away. Okay. Well, let's not do that. Okay. I mean, because you win in the story. You win. So I got no protection here, right? So, okay. And then finally one night a whole fight broke out between us on stage. I mean, it was just, I fought back.
I swear to God, I thought you were kidding.
Oh, no.
An actual
fight
with the actor.
And the producers wouldn't do anything. And then finally I just said, I quit. I'm done. I'm out. You don't pay me for this. You're not protecting me. And then they talked to my agent. They threatened to sue me. If I quit, they fired Danny and they made me stay. And so I had to do a whole week, another week with this actor. Well, he knew he'd been fired because for abusing me, and I think that week I got abused, maybe a little less. So, but it was weird. I just had never run into a situation like that. I mean, it's just you don't in film. The stunt man is there, the stunt woman is there, and they protect you, and they say, no, we'll do it this way. Make sure don't hurt. And
don't you rehearse a fight that you do on stage before every performance?
Yes, absolutely. And with like when I played Romeo, there was a sword rehearsal every night so that no one got hurt ever. Should anyone get hurt on stage or on film. in any set, anywhere, anytime, with gun or without, whatever. Should never, ever, ever happen.
I mean, we're not talking about this, but I don't understand why there's ever bullets on a movie set.
No, but the minute a gun comes on a set for me and I'm the director, I said, give me the gun. They said, hot gun on set. And I said, they said, no, it's cold. I said, let me look, and I make sure it's empty. I take it and I dry fire it 6 times, click, 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 or once or twice if it's an automatic, and click, click, click. I said, cold gun on set. Here you go. And now I've demonstrated there's a cold gun on.
Are you being taped doing that? Do you know?
No.
Okay.
But I do it in front of everyone.
Amazing.
And as an actor, then I take the gun. If you hand me the gun, then I'm going to say, I want to check. Click, 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 click. Okay, cold gun. You're right. And then off we go.
So to you, what happened on Rust is it could never have happened on your set.
Never. You know, so it's just, I don't know why there was even a real round anywhere near. And a rehearsal, you don't need a gun to rehearse. I can point my finger at you where the camera is.
What would Lucille Ball say?
Yeah.
Like you can't rehearse without the props.
She didn't do comedy with a gun.
It's funny. Would she have actually done that with a gun? She probably would have.
Maybe.
That was her.
Maybe, but she would have made sure it was safe. I mean, I don't think anyone ever got hurt on a Lucy show. I don't think that whatever she did, whatever in comedy, I don't think she'd ever hurt anyone.
What do you want? We only have a couple minutes left. What do you want? Thank you for all your time. What do you want people when they're done reading this? And I don't want to say when you have another 30 years of performing to do, so you may have to do a part 2. But what's the takeaway that you hope people get from this?
Well,
articulate it for me.
I think what I learned is that it's a team sport. Whatever. That the movie business is a full contact team sport. And it's the team around you that makes you good, and it's you with that team that makes you good. And so embrace them and bring them together as a director, as an actor. But in any business, in anything you do, is what because it applies to any job. Do the best you can. Be prepared. Bring it day one and take one. And make sure your team is with you, and I think it's true for any business, and I think it's true especially for show business. And I was an arrogant, young, stupid actor with full of my own head and ego for a while, and learned from Kurt Russell and Clint Eastwood that there was another way, and it made me a better actor, and it made me a better person.
I'm not sure you could have learned that without the experiences you had. So you watched John Belushi Crater, you watched Chris Farley, you were a bit older, but, those are lessons. And again, another sports analogy, it's hard to get those lessons young.
Yep. Yeah.
A lot of that comes with age. And one of the issues I have is in the media business, sports business, or show business is the younger people, and this makes me sound old and white, but the younger people don't feel like they want to go through that.
I get that too.
And I'm not sure I understand, because the lessons you have, you can't be taught, you have to live. Yeah. And you were gracious enough to actually put them in. So I want to, before we end here, it's called Damn Glad to Meet You. There it is. It is available right now. Make sure you go to your bookstores. It's not short, but it reads quickly.
Good.
And you've got a lot of things to say. And you will read about names that you will be shocked to read about, who Tim has worked with, Tim has enjoyed spending time with. And so I close by saying this. Better for you if this is a bestseller or the Dodgers win back-to-back World Series. Like what to you?
Bestseller.
Bestseller, right? Forget the Dodgers.
The Dodgers are on their own.
Right. For you, it's, let's get some money.
They got good management, they've got good talent, and they got Ohtani starts pitching next year. I think they'll take care of themselves. I think it's a twofer.
You want them both?
This will pave the way for them to win the World Series.
I think you should deliver some of these to the clubhouse. I think Dave Roberts would be wise to show this book to some of his players. I appreciate you, Tim. I could keep going.
David, I so enjoy visiting with you. I can't tell you how much this means to me.
Thank you. We will do it again.
Yes.
Don't forget, Damn Glad to Meet You. You can also watch the Matheson right now, Virgin River. New season's going to be dropping. You're everywhere, as you should be, and you deserve it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Thanks, David.
All right, bye-bye. All right, bye-bye. It's the best I could come up with. Cut it out. All right, bye-bye.